we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden and his auto pen.
What is the bar for sending Marines to
the bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.
Sending active duty Marines on the table, sir. Secretary has
We're going to see what we need. We'll send whatever we need to make sure there's law and order.
Mr. President, do you foresee those protests spreading to other cities, Chicago, New York, for example, in the next few days?
Yes, we're going to be watching it very closely. And when they spit at people, you know, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit, and worse, you know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them, nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military, which they do as a common thing. They get up to them this far away and then they start spitting in their face. That happens, they get hit very hard.
What are the rules of engagement for federal troops?
We'll see what happens. If we think there's a serious insurrection or less than that, we're going to have law and order. Very important.
How would you define an insurrection?
You have to really just have to look at the site. You have to see what's happening. Last night in Los Angeles, we watched it very closely. There was a lot of violence there. There was a lot of violence, and it could have gotten much worse. And you have an incompetent governor. Just take a look at the train stations that he's building. Like 20 times over budget. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. So I did call him the other night. I said, look, you got to take care of this, otherwise I'm sending in the troops.
Well, the governor of California has urged protesters to try and stay and be peaceful after the US President Donald Trump deployed the National Guard to LA. Tension has just flared again a moment ago between protesters and the LAPD this time. Let's run it back. All right, taking live pictures from the skies now, from the chopper of one of our affiliates there, and it is showing these little skirmishes that are taking place between protesters on the left, and it's the LAPD on the right now. So it's not the members of the National Guard who we've been playing earlier today. They're at a different section. We've been showing you pictures of flare-ups between the National Guard and some protesters as well. Dozens of protesters outside a detention facility in downtown LA. So we are now, according to this picture, in a different part of LA that's being controlled or attempted to be controlled by the LAPD. So lines of them on the right, and they're those protesters who are trying to agitate them. It seems as though they're trying to agitate them by hurling whatever verbal muscle they have at them to try and get a reaction to them. So that standoff taking place right now on the streets of Los Angeles as we go into early afternoon. And this all comes after troops, 300 of them, were placed on the streets with orders to stamp out demonstrations that broke out in response to those immigration raids. Sky's Martha Kellner is there.
This is the third day of protests against Donald Trump's immigration policy, but a very clear ratcheting up of the situation here today, and that's because the National Guard have arrived on the streets at the behest of President Donald Trump. There are 2,000 military members on their way to Los Angeles. He says to stamp out these immigration protests, but this is in direct opposition to the wishes of the Governor of California, Gavin Newsom, who says that Donald Trump deploying the National Guard on the streets here is a clear attempt to rile up these protesters, to escalate this situation further. Where I am at the moment is in the heart of downtown Los Angeles. I'm outside the Metropolitan Detention Center, and there are still people being held in the basement of this detention center who were detained during immigration raids over the past few days. ICE, Immigration and Customs enforcement officials, were going to workplaces across this city, rounding up people who they claim are illegal immigrants. Some of them are being held here, and that's why you see the protesters demanding for their release. You may also be wondering, there are helicopters circling over above, drones, police drones as well, police helicopters. And you may be wondering why I'm wearing this big gas mask, and that's because just over half an hour ago, these National Guard members of the military, deployed tear gas and rubber bullets into this crowd, sending protesters scattering. You can see there's a very clear anger here. Donald Trump is saying that this was an unavoidable situation, that he had to send in the federal National Guard. Gavin Newsom says that this is political game playing by the president.
Well, further to that, and still on the Californian governor, the Democrat Gavin Newsom, this has clearly irked him, the fact that his authority has been overridden by the feds here. He says it was purposefully inflammatory. The Democrat Mayor Karen Bass has called the deployment of the National Guard as a chaotic escalation. Just bearing in mind, this is the first time since 1965 that the feds have overridden the authority of California by sending in the National Guard. But on Donald Trump, he says, well, if the Democrats of California can't sort it out, then the feds will. This was Donald Trump earlier.
Well, we're going to have troops everywhere. We're not going to let this happen to our country. We're not going to let our country be torn apart like it was under Biden and his auto pen.
What is the bar for sending Marines?
The bar is what I think it is. I mean, if we see danger to our country and to our citizens, will be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order.